Greetings, everyone. As we all know, interviews can be daunting, and having some guidance is always welcome. Knowing this, Thapa AC Student Chapter is elated to bring to you an interactive session on placement readiness hosted by Priya Vajpeyi, an excellent engineer, mentor, and public speaker. She's currently employed as a software engineer too at Adobe. She also has past experience working at Morgan Stanley and HCL. She's here to answer all your questions regarding interviews and help in making your placement process smoother. Stay tuned to gain meaningful insights from an industry expert. The stage is all yours, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ananya, for such a lovely introduction. And yes, so let's begin up with the session. Let's not waste any time anymore. So here, the session that we are going to take today is around placement readiness, one of the hot topics that all of us, industry experts that you call. We are not experts, just by the way. We are also into the industry, learning something new every day. It is good for us as well as for college students as well, not just for people in second, third, or fourth year, even for freshers. This one is very important. They must know what they need to prepare from the first year itself in order to be ready for placements in their final year. So we'll follow a ladder approach. We'll go one by one. I'll pick up the topics, and meanwhile, I would request the audience, as in when you have any questions, just keep dropping them down in the comments. I'll be more than happy to answer them. So the first step that I want people to know right from their first year is don't study books, don't study theory. Be very practical with all the things that you're reading, be it the subjects like databases or compilers or such subjects, or subjects like DSA, subjects like AI, machine learning, something like that. Don't read theory, don't just study for passing examinations. That is the classical method of education that we have in our country, but then it is not something which comes handy when it comes to the actual placements in your fourth year or in your final year itself, right after from the sixth semester. There what comes into picture is how many projects have you done, and that is where it comes onto our face. Boom, that shit, we didn't know we had to do projects also. We were busy getting good cgpas. Of course cgpas matter, but more than your cgpas, what matter are the projects. And if you will wait till your sixth semester to start building project, you will have a lot to carry on yourself. That time you'll have to prepare for placements, you'll have to do a lot of resume back and forth, you'll have to apply so many places, and then you'll be busy creating and clearing this backlash of not having projects. So from first year onwards, pay attention to these two very important things. First thing is, everything that you're reading, every subject, even be it mathematics. So one very fun fact that I'm going to share, there is this Markov chain, if you remember from your M1 or M2 subjects. We did it in mathematics in our engineering. I had created a project on Markov chain, and that was so good that I still have it on my resume, even after being in the industry for 2 years and having so many projects to display. So don't think we have mathematics, we can't create a project out of it. We are engineers, and it is our work to just pick up problems and create as many projects as we can, so that later we should have a pool of good projects where we need to just pick out one, two, or three good ones to put on our resume and change it according to the roles that we are applying for. Make projects, do hands on, don't wait for your sixth semester to take good I would say Coursera courses, or take good programming lessons, join pep coding. I'm just not doing advertisements here, but that is what people do, all the engineering students do. So yes, start looking at these websites called lead code, called hacker rank, at least geek for geeks. Geek for geeks is I would say the holy Quran for all of us when it comes to the programmers. You have got anything and everything on Geek for Geeks, right down from theory to clear your college exams, to great project ideas, to great DSA practice. I mean, it is unparalleled. Even if you interview for Google, let's say, Google HRs do send across a list of preparatory resources, and Geek for Geeks is on the top of it. So that is what you should be preparing from your first year itself. While reading from theory, so I still have my OS notes, I still have my threading notes, which I sometimes refer to even in some of the most complex projects that you are building today. So whenever you're studying some subject, don't just study it to clear the examinations. Now, let's just conclude it down what we need to do. A lots of hands on, whichever subject it is. Whatever topic you find useful, whatever content you find that, this is a problem, this is an unsolved one. I can take this up, I can perhaps propose a solution towards it. Go for it right from the first year. It's okay. Even if you're in your second year or third year, or let's say sixth semester, the prima facie of everything starting, just start from right now itself. Second thing, make notes. These notes are going to come handy to you for rest of your life. These days, LinkedIn is such a great platform for all the people who are willing to get hired into good companies, fan companies as we call it, right? So even on LinkedIn, you will see a lot of GitHub notes floating around, DSA notes floating around, OS notes, and those posts, they have the maximum engagement possible. Why? People in the industry also these days are not looking for websites, they are also looking for some good handy fundamental notes, because everything in details is available on internet, but we don't have the time to search day in and day out on internet. We should just have a diary ready for us, just go through the pages. So those notes are going to be helpful to you. Create them well. It is helping me till date. It helped me tremendously while preparing for your placements also. That is second. Third thing is, yes, do pay attention to scoring good marks in your college. That is helpful, anyways. Because let's say, this is a very famous exercise we all do. Create one Excel sheet with all the companies where we want to apply on campus or off campus. In that list, you don't want to just simply mark out the companies on the basis of CGPA criteria. They might have on campus or off campus. So try to achieve good scores. Of course, that is not the only thing which you should be targeting, but that should be one of the things that we should target towards. I've seen a lot of people who start contributing so much in open source that they completely, put their college grades at stake. Don't do that. Just try to balance things out, and this is also again going to help you later out, once you get placed. It's not the only thing that you're doing 9 to 5 job. You will have, let's say I do content creation also, you will have multiple different roles, you will have multiple different responsibilities, and that is when balancing between different things is going to come handy. Start cultivating this habit. Right now you don't have pressures, you don't have deadlines, but later on you'll have a deadline every single day, everywhere. I mean, even if it's as simple as putting up your thoughts on Twitter, you have to do it at a particular time daily to, just bring up a good following. So imagine that sort of guidelines will start forming. So it's always good and advisable to prepare from such a layman stage that we are on right now in a first, second, or third year itself. Second thing, which is very important, is to think from the perspective of a marketing person. I'll be very clear and crisp on this part. Think about selling yourself as an IT professional after 4 years in a row. I mean, how will you convince someone that, hire me, not the other person that you are interviewing? You will just have a single paper called resume, wherein you have to draft everything about yourself and your career journey so far in a way that the person reading your resume immediately wants to interview you. And perhaps if the interview goes successful, they want to hire you over any other person that they interviewed for the same role. So you have to think from this perspective. How can I make my resume look very professional? In these 4 years, how do we bifurcate it? The first 2 years is for you to just collate the content that later on you want to put on your resume. Do as many internships as you want. Trust me, there is no limit. People say that we don't get internships if we have not done BTech, we are not in our fourth year. There's nothing like that. I started doing internships on the sophomore year of my college. I was in, I think, third semester. I started doing simple IT trainee jobs, as simple as doing data entries in Excel, because back then it was a big thing for me also to master what Excel does. Even I can bet on it, a lot of people do not know how to function Excel properly, even till date, after being for so many years in industry. And if you know Excel, I'm going to tell this one thing to you, it is going to come super handy, even if you're not in some data oriented job. It is going to come handy. It comes handy for me also. I prioritize all of my things, all the tasks that I have to do using Excel. I use a lot of pivots, I use a lot of filters. It helps me tremendously, right? So this is what you should be doing. Do as many internships as you can. Third, do open source contributions. Nothing is going, you don't have a deadline, no one is depending on you. If you don't raise a PR, the project is not going to crash anyway. But it is a great opportunity for you to learn how to contribute. what all different tech stacks are there. Just explore, set yourself free, don't set limits. I have come across so many students, they keep on reaching out to me over LinkedIn that Priya, I have just done Java for the 4 years and I don't know how to write code in C++. I tell you folks, this is not how we function in industry. Today, let's say my project is working on Golang language. I'll have a ramp up time of, let's say, 1 week, 2 weeks, and then I have to start writing prod level ready code in Golang. And just the next project, I'll jump onto JavaScript. We have to do so. That is how requirements keep on changing, that rapid, that fast. So make yourself adaptable. Just don't set limits or boundaries that in this semester we have only got C++ basics and some fundamentals. We have got HTML only, we'll read HTML. All of us know it's like ABC into the programming world. So don't restrict yourself to HTML. Even if you're being taught HTML, CSS, go a bit step further, learn about bootstrapping. Learn about cascading style sheet, CSS in details. Don't just do CSS may how to change color buttons, stuff like that. So right, so just try to make a simple portfolio building things. Just try to start designing your own portfolio website from first year itself, where you were being taught HTML, CSS. Why to do it in fourth year? I'll be honest, like I have no apprehensions in saying that I did my own portfolio building like 2 to 3 months back, which I would have done back there in first year and just had to populate it right now. So use your time, use your skills, set yourself free, explore. Next thing that you can do is a lot of good certifications. Certifications don't come easy, and do not count Udemy, Coursera certifications into the traditional certifications that you have on resume. They do not hold a lot of value. They are great for learning perspective, but when it comes to the certifications that we put on our resume, we need good organizations, good institutions from where folks get certified. To give an example, Red Hat certified system administrators or AWS certified cloud practitioners, something like that. Microsoft Azure practitioners, something like that. Some good organization, their paid certificates, unpaid certificates. Being a student, also, you get so many great things that people miss on. We have our student ID. Student ID gives a lot of free subscriptions. Even if you talk about AWS, they give you so many cloud credits already on your student ID. So there is no better time than to practice right now, right? So that is the third thing you can do. Fourth thing that you can do is do not waste time in your college when you have got the opportunity to go ahead and excel other than your academics also. Try to do something in co-currics. Try to head IEEE student chapter of your college. Try to contribute toward the ACM of your college. Something in whichever way you're good. I'm not just talking about doing it in the technology field. Even if not in the technology field, you're someone you love to speak or you love to anchor programs, go for it. Later on also, it comes very handy. If I talk about organizations like Adobe, which I work for right now, they are very open to doing a lot of CSR activities, corporate social responsibility activities. So here, if we have got skills like public speaking, if we have got skills like presenting, anchoring, they are just like cherry on the top. I personally love doing it, and I keep on hosting a lot of events for Adobe, which not just I love personally, professionally also, it gives my career a boost because I get a visibility in terms of how leadership looks you, just as an engineer or something more than just an engineer in their team. So this is going to help you later on a lot. So don't miss out on that. If you can do any contributions to all the clubs and hubs that your college might have, be there. Next thing is, don't hesitate to take part in hackathons. Again, I keep on reiterating this over and over again because people don't expect it, people don't accept it also, but this is a truth about them. We are not expecting ourselves to fail, nor we will accept that we have failed later on. But the thing is that if you will not try because of that apprehension that, yeah, I might fail, you will miss out on some of the most, amazing and golden opportunities of your life. Not just in your student phase, later on in your personal life also, in your career, professional life also, it will be a big miss. Never think that, I'm not going to try just because I have a fear that I might fail later on. Don't do that. Never do that. So take part in a lot of hackathons. At worst, what will happen? You will not qualify. That's fine. At best, what can happen? You will be winning that hackathon. And I tell you, there are a lot of hackathons by Infosys, let's say, by Tata, let's say, and they actually give you some great offers. In your third year itself, you are placed. So you don't have that pressure and you actually play free. Just think about, as a cricketer playing in a World Cup match, having that sort of pressure versus playing in a test match or playing in something while you're practicing. So that is how things change. Right now, you're practicing. If you win something, that's just a bonus. But later on in your placements, you will have that pressure on your mind. But if you're placed already, you don't have that pressure. You can still go ahead and give it your best shot. So just keep those things in mind. Do not waste time. That is something I keep on saying day in and day out. This is something coming from the technology perspective. Again, since we are going up the ladders, A, make sure you do not miss out on fundamentals. B, you do a lot of hands-on. C, you collect a lot of content that later you will be putting out on your resumes. These three things on a a very shallow note if we are talking about. Next thing that you need to make sure that you do while you're still in college is start making rough drafts of your resume that you will be using to apply later on. They need to be ATS compliant. Don't just make it look nice and aesthetic. Make sure it has got a good ATS score as well. Resumeworded.com. I'm just giving out some names that you can easily use. You can check the score of your resume. I mean, I don't know if you people are aware or not, but once you apply any resume online, on a careers portal, then it gets a score associated to it. On the basis of that score, either it is going to float up in the entire queue where, let's say, 1,000 candidates have applied, or it is going to completely go to the backlash and perhaps get dumped. The hiring manager or recruiter will never even get to see it. So make sure you make great resumes, ATS compliant resume. Overleaf.com is something everybody uses. You do must use it. It uses latex, which is going to again come very handy for you. All you have to do is just choose a template, copy paste the content. It will build a good ATS compliant resume for you. It's very handy. Also, make sure that you just create your resume once and then you say this is something which I'm going to use for rest of the 1000 plus companies which I apply for rest of my life. It never works like that. You need to tailor your resume for every single company. I still do so. If I talk about Adobe, okay, right before Adobe, I was working for Morgan Stanley. I had applied for Morgan Stanley, right? So my resume, the color scheme which my resume had was navy blue and a bit of gray, black, that way. The moment I was applying for Adobe, I tweaked it to maroonish, grayish, blackish. So that is how you actually play with the color scheme and the psychology of colors as well, to let your recruiter know even unknowingly that this person is so much willing to join my company. It sets a very positive preset in their mind even before taking your interview, which comes handy for us later on. So think from that perspective. Also, some companies pay a lot of emphasis towards the leadership values, towards the core principles. For example, Amazon leadership principles. They are very important for the company that they actually kick out candidates in their HR rounds as well. I mean, even if you're very good programming wise, but if you've not got that zest of all the leadership principles, or if you're not a very good, human being as per the definitions per se, you will not pass it through. So don't forget on all those lines. Think about displaying your leadership qualities or soft skills as and when required. Or if the company is completely into core tech and they don't really care about, of course they do care, but they don't really lay emphasis in the hiring process itself on the values, then yes, you can skip on the soft skills part and perhaps increase all the accomplishments that you have done on these platforms, lead code, hackerrank, etc. Next, a very famous question: should we do competitive programming or not? Everybody has this question. I have been asked this question 100 plus times. So I'll be very honest. Competitive programming is not a subject. It's not mandatory, but it's a sport, and it's a very helpful sport. If you're good at competitive programming, by that I mean if you enjoy competitive programming, only then go for it. Otherwise, it's not like, if you are not a CP person, then you will not get hired. No, absolutely no. You must know DSA basics, whether you're person who loves to do competitive or you're the person who does not do competitive at all. DSA is compulsory for both of you. One practices DSA day in and day out, by the means of all the coding hackathons and coding contests they take part in. The other person is practicing DSA on the platforms like LeetCode by directly solving problems or by directly developing good projects. So this is how you need to balance basic DSA fundamentals. Knowledge of basics do not move anywhere. Make sure you have that. Then Competitive programming, if you enjoy it, great. If you don't enjoy it, go ahead. There are other alternatives also. I keep on saying you can build projects, you can still solve a lot of problems on, let's say, algoexpert.io, or you can go to platforms like LeetCode, HackerRank, anywhere. They are just problems mentioned, and you have got the solution also in place in case you're not able to solve it. Just have a look, just build your ideas, and that is how you go forward about it, right? That is next thing which I wanted to touch upon. Next is, after you've got your good resume, now don't be hesitant to start applying, and don't be lazy in this way also. Don't just wait for companies to come and recruit you. You should be very much willing to also, keep applying in different companies, even on their career portals. Use LinkedIn like a pro. There was nothing called LinkedIn for students, I think around 7 to 8 years back. LinkedIn was just for very good professionals. We students were not using it back then, but now it is the platform for students, legit. I mean, you will not believe, but even more than people are getting hired from the careers portal is the number of people getting hired from the LinkedIn directly. Now recruiters are reaching out to folks on LinkedIn. If I personally talk about myself, today only, like, if I it is just 7 p.m. in the evening, I started looking at LinkedIn from, I think, 12 in the afternoon. So in these 7 hours only, three different recruiters reached out to me from the same company, Amazon. I'm not hesitant to name it, because this is happening with every other professional out there. Don't think about recruiters from startups only. Recruiters from FANG also reach out to you if you have maintained a great profile. So don't just lay good emphasis on your resume, but on a great LinkedIn profile as well. Network nicely. Don't use LinkedIn from a perspective of getting hired. Use LinkedIn from a perspective of networking. Network with good, valuable people. They can be your peers, they can be junior to you, they can be senior to you, they can be the people who you project as your role models. You can just connect with them. Even if you're not getting connected, even if they are not accepting your connect request, you can have a look at what content they are posting. It is so helpful for me. I learn a lot from LinkedIn daily. Like, I'll be very honest, after my work, I do not touch Instagram, I do not touch WhatsApp. I hate WhatsApp. I don't know what problem do I have. I hate it so much that I do not even get to see my family's message. And then I get taunted on that. But that's absolutely fine. I am addicted to LinkedIn per se. Why? Because the moment I open it, I get to see my juniors doing great. I mean, something which I could never even imagine of in 2017, my second year or first year of college. People in their first year, they are building crazy websites. They have deployed application. They own startup. That is where you start getting ideas. You start feeling motivated, and that is the platform to network with such worthy people. So don't waste such platforms. You've got social media, use it to the best that you can. I mean, why not just, spend some time on LinkedIn the way we are spending time on Facebook or Instagram? I'm not asking people to cut off their times on those platforms, but definitely make use of these platforms, because if you won't, other people will, and they are definitely making it already. So, I mean, this is our decade. People have been reading this all over and over again. We have got so many unicorns this one year itself, right? This decade is going to be for the engineers. In India, also, not just in India, on a worldwide level, also, these are the waves coming in. For one wave, management people were getting hired so much. It was their wave, right? This is the wave for us, the engineers. If you don't bag some great opportunities right now, then I don't know when. So don't waste time. Use LinkedIn like a pro. And again, be very polite, be very understanding on a platform like LinkedIn. Don't expect people to revert back to you immediately. If I talk about myself, let's say, I love interacting with college going folks, and I make sure that I accept each request, because I know not today, not tomorrow, perhaps 1 or 2 years later, I might come helpful for this person. If they have sent me requests, they must have had something in their mind. They wanted to discuss something. So I do accept the request, but then I know the fact that I won't be able to answer each one of these people right away. I also get, let's say, 1 or 2 hours. I have my full time job also, then the life also, right? So make sure that you're very gentle and polite to people. Do let them know about your ask. Do let them know, even if you're talking to recruiters. This is a very famous thing that people do. Just connect with a recruiter, let them know that this is me, this is my resume, and I have personally shared very polite ways of doing it. Just let them know about your portfolio and what is your ask, that I'm looking for so and so position in your reputed company. As and when they'll be free, they might reach out to you, or they might never reach out to you also, but that is when you don't have to stop. Let's say you're targeting Microsoft, don't just message one recruiter, message as many recruiters as you can, and the turnover ratio will keep on increasing. Right now you're sending requests, someday you will be getting requests. So I mean, it's your time, use it the best way you can. On Instagram before, so when Instagram started, people used to post very raw pictures. Then people used to use, because of Instagram, 10 different applications to edit their picture, to make it look aesthetic, to break it into 10 different pictures and upload it on Instagram. Later, now a lot of small businesses are running on Instagram and flourishing. So this is the beauty of the platform. It's up to you how well do you use it. Are you just posting raw pictures, or you're posting some great pictures, or you're making money out of it due to some small business or something? Of course, depends on you. So this is the entire placement readiness that I talk about. Lastly, to top it all over, from last couple of years, 2 years, we have moved to a virtual world. Everybody, not just the students, but the recruiters as well. So one more, I would say, not just a skill, but a mandate that has become very important is to know how to communicate well, written as well as verbal. You should be, I remember these days while I was interviewing for, let's say, Adobe or Morgan Stanley, I was sitting in their offices in front of the interviewer. So there are many non-verbal cues also that we keep on giving, which makes the interviewer know whether this person is very arrogant or this person is very humble, they are open to learn, they are adaptive or not. There are so many hints about it. For example, my Adobe interview, I was called at the center, I along with so many girls, it was a off campus pool, we were called 8 in the morning, and I was the last person getting interviewed. I think 6 p.m. in the evening. But then the amount of energy which I had, the positivity which I had, did not increase to the slightest bit. Whereas there were some girls with some parents also which left midway. Ye kya tarika hota hai? We have been waiting. So it could be a queue, it could be a testing part from the company. We have 360-degree reviews also. It could be something that they were reviewing. Is the person willing to wait? Is the person willing to, let's say, sit in a meeting for 2 hours once he's hired? Right? So please make sure that you know how to communicate well. A little bit of corporate language, a little bit of verbal enhancement is always a plus point. You will not just get to know how to communicate well with your peers, but also on a general level. Let's say you're talking to a recruiter, if they don't have an opportunity for you right now, but if you have left such a great impression on them by the means of your application or by the means of how you have talked to them over a telephonic conversation, they might reach out to you later for a different opportunity. So make sure you do not miss out on these things. They are very fundamental and basics. Were not there earlier, but are there now, because now all the interviews are also being taken online. You just sit like this in front of a camera. So, right, just make sure that you're not sounding arrogant and you know the business corporate language as well. Because on an application, if you've got something on a form, if you've got something, you have Google. I mean, just Google it, you will get to know the meaning of that word. But let's say you're sitting for an interview. That moment, if the person has used some word which is very business buzzword or very business corporate oriented language, and you don't understand it that time, it will be a miss on your part. So try to read these words a little bit, like you used to read comics. Every day, I have done it personally also. Every day in the night, I used to spend like 10 odd minutes, just open the business lingo, this is what they call it, and I used to read the meaning of words. Right? So this is also going to be helpful. If you do it right now onwards, it will be better for you, because you will not have a lot of payload to take care of. But otherwise, in your final years, again, just 2 3 months and everything that we talked about to do in 2 3 months. Now, to top it all off, in the end, if your placement sessions are right around the corner, this is your time to just brush up your programming skills the best that you can. Do not miss out on, brushing up DSA, brushing up operating systems. People do one thing also. They do a lot of DSA and they ace solving problems, but they don't know how to present the solution of a problem. So this is also what you need to learn and practice. Perhaps do a lot of mock interviews. There are a lot of professionals like me. I personally do a lot of mock interviews. They do a lot of mock interviews, wherein even if you're able to solve a problem, you're not able to present it well in front of the of a recruiter. And that is when the interviewer thinks that the person is very confused and I'm not going to hire them. Whereas you were not confused at all. You just juggled up a little bit with your words. So this is what you have to practice. Use a star approach. Use great approaches to present your solution also. How do you understand? How do you use a notepad? How do you use a rough sketch pad to tell person about this is what I'm thinking in my head and this is what the code is going to be based on, right? So these are everything you need to practice. And people do practice it really well. They tend to miss out on the theory part. They tend to miss out on the operating system CBMS. Don't do that. Operating systems are super important. Now, once you enter a company, you don't get a problem statement that you write a solution to. You get a problem statement. Now you are the researcher on your own. Your team is a team of researchers. You have to find out the solution. You have to actually measure the cost of it. How well is your solution? How efficient is it? Is it going to be cost effective for the company or not? These are the trade offs that you actually do. And you can only do it if you have got some really good systems knowledge going on. That if I, let's say, use Azure Cloud, this is how effective my algorithm will be there. Or if I deploy it directly on the tenant, this is a, etc. So this is what you really need to know, your systems knowledge. Third thing is database knowledge is also required. I'm not expecting you to work on, let's say, SQL, NoSQL, every single database that you have heard of, but at least be knowledgeable about them, that which case is going to apply which sort of database. It is again coming back to the case wherein, let's say, you're sitting in a group of 10 students. Now, those 10 out of that group, any one student will be there who will be super knowledgeable and they'll have the knowledge of almost about everything. Even if they talk about food, even if they talk about roaming around the places, then everybody will be looking forward to being friends with that one person. So this is exactly what is happening in corporate also. If you have got some great knowledge, it will be good for you to shift between the roles, to shift between the companies. You will be someone who will be desired to be hired, right? So just try to gain as much knowledge as you can. Read a lot of technical newsletters, they are always there. Or at least not newsletters, then go to LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a mine right now. Everything is great over there. So I think this is it from my end when it comes to placement readiness. Now I'm open to questions. Whatever questions you all have, please feel free to ask.
Thank you so much, ma'am. This was such an amazing session. Our viewers have asked quite a few questions. The first one
Yeah.
being, is it better to go in for placement drive or should I pursue higher studies after graduation?
Completely depends on you. I mean, placement drives are great if you think you're being paid good enough for your skill set. Then go ahead, take a chance, get hired into that company. Later on you still have the chance to go for higher studies. But if you feel like you're not being paid enough, you're not being paid fair enough or justified as per your knowledge, then this is your time to go for higher studies and perhaps sit for the placement drives later on.
Thank you. So the next question was, could you please give us some tips to prepare a great LinkedIn profile to catch the attention of recruiters?
All right. So just consider LinkedIn profile as you on a platform. It should have everything. So everything starts from tell me about yourself. So that has an about section. It should have good about section, some semi-formal kind of stuff. I'm not asking you to just copy paste very formal things that I'm looking for some organization which does not set some limits on my growth. Don't copy paste. We know what these lines are, right? Write something original, write something which is you, but in a formal tone. So go semi formal in the about and look very yourself. Next up is put a great profile picture. Again, profile picture can be semi formal, but don't make it look like a selfie. That is the first impression which you're going to build. Next, if you can, bake a good banner out of it and put a good banner on your LinkedIn profile. It again speaks a lot about the person. Some people have got some really great quotes put in their banner. Otherwise, some people have got some angry birds sitting on their banner. So it talks about how serious they are. I mean, see, you both smiled as well, so you also know which person you are going to take this hiring process forward with. So it's as simple as that. Third thing is that just try to mention everything that you have done in your life, all your awards, all your accomplishments. I got a merit certificate in class 10th. I have mentioned it over there. I have put a drive link of my merit certificate over there. So right from the beginning, whatever you have been good in, just place it over there. there is a great featured section. Use it like a pro. All the awards that you have got, wherever your name has got featured, even as simple as on your college website, if it has got featured, put it over there immediately. People get to see ये बंदा अच्छा है, important है. We can, ये हमारे काम का बंदा है, we can get in touch with them. That is the section on the top of your profile itself. Next is, make sure you have listed all of your great skills, technical as well as soft skills, on the profile itself. Now, listing your skills is one thing. Other thing is passing LinkedIn assessments. That is add on to that. Take recommendations. There's a great section called recommendations. People you have worked with, your mates, your people you have worked with in your past, or your professors that you're doing projects under, you're doing researches under. Those are some great people to send a testimony across that this is a great person to hire. I have taken recommendations from my professors, from my startup owners, let's say. So there was this startup owner I worked under for, I think, 3 to 4 weeks. But then I asked them for a recommendation because I wanted to understand, am I a good professional? That it was for myself. And since he has written a great recommendation, it works as a boost for my profile now. Then I work for Morgan Stanley. I took it from my managers there. I'm working from Adobe. So there's no harm in taking good recommendations. It really plays a key role in hiring manager understanding you as a professional or considering you for that interview call. Next up is, list out all the publications, list out all the awards, list out all the certifications. So basically everything about yourselves again. So try to explore. There is a lot of, videos talking about what all sections are there on LinkedIn. Explore each and every section, I suggest, and whenever you feel like you have even the slightest content to put there, put it there. Don't be hesitant. If you've got 10 projects, put 10 projects there. Don't be hesitant, because that is your platform to showcase. If you will be hesitant there, then no one is going to get the dreams of asking, let's say Ananya or Kriti, इसके अलावा भी कोई projects life में किए हैं? No one is going to ask you. They'll just judge you on the basis of whether you have mentioned 3 projects or 10 projects there, right? So this is how you can build a very good LinkedIn profile. Plus, be very active, post something meaningful, good for the community. Try to give back to the community, guide your juniors, something positive in some way. So it really boosts a profile.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I'm pretty sure after the session ends, all of us are going to spend an hour fixing our LinkedIn profiles.
Lovely,
The other,
lovely. Do that. Someone send me the connect request. I would love to connect to each one of you.
yes, ma'am. The other question was, what are the advantages of cracking a good placement?
Advantages of cracking good placements? I mean, wow, everything. Money. You people are doing it for money, and you know that too. Plus, money is survival also these days. There is a very famous problem for us, the engineers, that we are supposed to work a lot and we are not paid enough for the work being done. So, if you have got a good placement, your CTC will be a good indicator of how well your skills or your time is being justified. A. B, if you have got a good placement in the first place. I understand this question. I mean, getting placed in a mass recruiter versus getting placed in a FANG company as your first company. Consider it like that. So, if you have gotten placed with a very good package at a very good company, then the greatest advantage would be the next company would be even better. If you have got placed at a mediocre or low company in the first place, you will still have to prove yourself as an employee for the other good company to hire you. So that is the basic advantage. Next, of course, CTC is there. Third, the benefits are there. You've got paid leaves also. You've got, you keep on getting something from the company to showcase for. You can network even more. If, let's say, right now I am an employee at Adobe. Let's say I am an employee for Google, or let's say I'm an employee for some XYZ company. Whom would you like to connect with? Right? So people like to connect with you even more if you've got some good placement where they are trying to get placed also. Right? So there are a lot of benefits, but most of all, the only thing that I want you to lay attention on, to pay a lot of emphasis on, is just check whether your efforts, your time, your skills are being justified in terms of respect, in terms of work life balance, and in terms of course, the CTC you are being given. So these are the top advantages that I can list for a good placement.
Thank you, ma'am. So the next question, I think this is the most asked question in every college, is that should we do CP or Dev?
अरे मैंने बता दिया, प्लीज मैंने बता दिया है, आप लोग खुद डिसाइड कीजिए. इट कंप्लीटली डिपेंड्स ऑन यू. ठीक है. I'll be very honest, don't take it in a way that we have been told to do CP, तो हम CP करेंगे, even if you don't enjoy. Please make sure that you go on the path that you're good at. If you're not good at CP, then what you'll do is you'll end up wasting your 6 months, 1 year in a row. You will be trying to doing CP, you will be getting failed, you will not be able to solve a lot of questions. Those questions come from a very different perspectives, and the interview questions are very different. Otherwise, imagine if CP was compulsory, why don't they ask just CP questions in all the interviews? Right? They don't ask CP questions, they ask DSA problems, which are classical problems out there. Correct? So just make sure that you follow the line you're good at, try to explore both, and if you're good at both, do both of them. If you're good at either one of them, just go in that one direction. But make sure again and again, both these folks, going for dev, going for CP, make sure that you practice DSA in and out. It is going to be indispensable for each of these cases.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question was, what is the interview process for a placement in Adobe?
Interview process for a placement in Adobe. So I got hired via She Codes, so I can comment for She Codes. In She Codes, we had one online exam, like we always do. It had aptitude as well as programming questions. After that, we had on-site interviews. So folks that cleared online interview were called for on-site interviews. I mean, online tests were called. So after I think being called, it was a single day process for me, and in the single day, we had 4 to 5 rounds, again, completely depending on the performance of individual. All of them were elimination rounds. Let's say if you have not done great enough, you will not pass down to the second round. And it was completely dependent on a person's knowledge, knack, and capacity, how many rounds they were facing. Some people were getting selected in just 3 rounds. They were being asked to go home. For me, it took 5, 7 rounds. So it completely depends. I still don't remember the exact number because it was completely dynamic. Nothing was fixed. आपके 4 rounds होंगे ऐसा fixed नहीं था. You give a round if you have done great enough. Also, the order of rounds is not fixed. There is nothing called OS round or DBMS round or competitive programming round, if that existed, or DSA round, right? So what happens is they call you. The person sitting next to you will start looking at your resume. Whatever they find interesting, let's say they find your project very interesting. I had one of the project done on, I think, image processing. So they started asking me the entire algorithm, and then the interview would start. So from there, that point onwards. So nothing is fixed in that case, but make sure to practice one thing if you're planning to apply for Adobe. You have to ace your fundamentals. They go as down as asking you to calculate binary of a number. In one of the puzzles, they asked me puzzles also. In one of the puzzles, I saw that puzzle only because of being able to remember the method we used to calculate binary. A lot of people, so we practice programming, but we know how to find the binary of a number writing a program of it, but we forget the division method. But I had to use division method there. So make sure you remember all of your fundamentals. Adobe really plays a lot of attention towards it. And like any other company, projects were important. How good your contributions were, your awards, your accomplishment, everything came into picture. So my resume was actually scanned inside out. There was nothing left on my resume which was not asked. So that is what the interview process looked like for me.
Thank you, ma'am. So the next question was, how can we learn new languages and new skills quickly?
Quickly, by hands-on. Best way to it. Right now, you have got something called YouTube, the power tool that we all have. Let's say you need to learn JavaScript or Python, any language. Go check out their official document. Just open that in one tab. I always suggest, I do it personally for myself also. After opening up the official documentation, it is like a Wikipedia. You can't read it in one day. Let's say, for example, let us consider Python's official documentation. We can't read it in one day. Now, what we need to do is open some platform like Geek for Geeks. Geek for Geeks has got it really crushed down to a single page of all the entries. So, what are variables, how to declare variables, what are the loops, etc., constraint, everything is listed on a single page. So just take one by one topic, read about it. Once you feel like you have read enough, go to YouTube, check out some good cool project on Python using just basic stuff that you have read, not using any library, nothing like that, and start implementing it. While implementing, you will learn more than what you have read already in last 10 days. So this is the best way to go step by step. Open the documentation. Whenever you're in doubt, do not trust any website, just trust the official documentation and keep practicing it. Once you're very good with Python's basic project, you can start incorporating more and more libraries. This is the same way we work with any framework. Let's say I'm doing Java. First of all, I learned how to write syntax, how to write things in Java, which is very different from Python, let's say. Then once I'm good in Java, I will write very basic library program, let's say, or payroll management program, basic ones that everybody create. Next, I'm good with Java now. I feel confident. After a couple of projects, I feel like I have learned enough. Okay, when will come that indicator that you have learned enough? When you feel like in creating a project, you did not have to Google anything out. You knew the logic, of course. Not logic is something we build on our own. You knew the syntax, you know what the errors showing up, and you knew how to solve it. That is the moment you feel like you have learned enough. Now anything new will come, you can again Google it later on. No one is asking you, just do it by your own. But then this is the moment you can go one step ahead and perhaps do Spring framework, do some JPA problems, do some Hibernate problems. So go step by step. Don't just jump onto creating a project. Start from basics, but then definitely do hands on.
Thank you, ma'am. One of the other questions was, how should one start preparation in first year?
I my entire session was around that. I would want you to just go rewind the entire session and go about it. Read well, make notes, do a lot of hands-on, and keep contributing wherever, whenever, in whichever form you can. In college, outside college, in college, take part in a lot of contests, hacking contests, everything that you're getting. Just try to assist some teacher in some of their assignments, do a lot of research, do publications, join an academy, start teaching. That is what I did. Do anything you can do, perhaps, right? Just start collating content that later can come handy for you to put on your resume, right? So just rewind the session. I've talked about everything a person can do from their first year itself.
Thank you, ma'am. So the next question was, what would you could you suggest some tips for hackathons? So the person is saying that he's from first year and he wanted to know
Yeah.
a little bit more about how they can go about in hackathons.
All right, so they are in first year, right? So
Yeah.
there is this platform called Hackathon. Okay, so the major problem is we don't get to know about hackathons. सीधे तब पता चलता है जब कोई बच्चा post डाल देता है winner of XYZ hackathon. So if you want to know about these hackathons prior to their happening, go to websites like Dare to Compete. Go to platforms like HackerArt. They have got everything listed over there in different domains. Let's say some hackathon comes up from a startup company, and if you have got some really great solution provided to them, even if you don't win it, you get hired by the company just to work on your solution. This is how these work. Next, how to go about in a hackathon. Once you have registered, these hackathons are not a one day thing. Sometimes the submissions are done later on, 1 month later to get shortlisted. 1 month later the another round is there. So keep at it, don't leave hackathons in between. You have to be very persistent. Next, if you're taking part in one day hacks, make sure from first year itself, make sure that you have got a good team of 2 to 3 folks. You always discuss it with them, you always study in group, you always have a common mindset of person revolving around you to take part in these hackathons with. All three of you sit in that one day hack, brainstorm a lot, google a lot, and try to build something out very useful. This is how everything works. No one has asked you not to google, but how to google effectively, how to bring out that solution effectively in a duration of 24 hours is what matters. So try to take part in all of them. Be very persistent. It might take longer. Also do not get disheartened if you don't win this. The moment you have googled enough, the moment you have created a solution, that is when you have won it already. Now prize was just a bonus, right? So have that team with you always. So a lot of people are not able to participate in hackathons also because of the fact they did not have team at that particular moment. So just have these things ready. So these are my top tips for taking part in any hackathons. Also, networking plays a very important role. Let's say if I talk about my personal experience only, I had one of these candidates. He was from I think LPU, Lovely Professional University. They took part in some hackathon, and that person was facing a problem. I was not even a part of that hackathon. He pinged me on the LinkedIn directly with the problem, and we being engineers, we can't ignore a problem. So there was a problem. I saw it directly on LinkedIn, and I actually spent my entire day solving it and giving it back to him. Although they did not win it, of course, but then this profit of being connected to somebody who, without having any intention, without having any advantage, will come to your rescue is great. So do networking, be connected to such folks. They will definitely help you out. We engineers are very helpful by nature. Everybody, you also will one day.
Thank you, ma'am. So the next question was, how can one ace their interviews and leave a lasting impression on the interviewer?
Right. This is very important question. So yes, we all get interview calls. If not interview calls, we at least get a chance to sit in interviews, which are part of our campus placements. Now, how to give a lasting impression? Be very formal in terms of your look, how you present yourself, how you talk, what you're talking about, what is your body language, what is your verbal language. These things matter a lot. Second thing, be very organized and structured in terms of your presentation. While so the person asked me how to impress the interviewer, how to be remembered by the interviewer even after your interview is done. Even if you've got selected, even if you were rejected, they will reach out to you later on because they were very impressed by you as a professional. If you are giving it, virtually, then whatever sketchpad you're using, try to make it very organized, try to keep it nice and clean and brief for the person to understand what you're writing down. It is a lovely impression on anybody. If you're writing a code, if it is a machine coding round, and even if in an interview the person has asked you to use some IDE or even notepad to write a code, make sure you keep on making it syntactically correct, or you're keeping on writing comments. You're making sure that everything is well formatted before and only. The way you're writing the code is a very big indicator of how well you actually program. If you're someone who keep programming day in and day out, you will know that you will not use the formatter in the end. You will actually keep formatting it from the first line itself. Even if you're giving it by sitting in front of a person, whatever paper pen you're using, try to list down everything very nicely. Don't create mess. Don't cut out the lines of code that you have written. Try to avoid these mistakes. Be very formal, be very humble to them. Even if you're not able to answer any question that they have put up, very humbly, without so a lot of people beat around the bush. They start answering anything to the question. Of course they know हमें answer नहीं आता है, but they don't want to say हमें answer नहीं आता है, because of which they keep on talking some bullshit about the concept, and which is why the person feels very irritated. आपको आता नहीं है, साफ समझ में आ गया है, but आप घुमाओ मत उस चीज को. Be very humble, be very polite. Just let them know, I am not able to recollect this at the moment. I would love to read about this later on, which is a very nice indicator. The person was honest, they told us, and they are willing to read about it later on as well. Versus the person don't know anything and they are just beating around the bush, right? You do get a scold out for that. So I was once interviewing for I think Google Singapore. So she asked me some very basic question, and this was back then in my after my college. I think before Morgan happened also. So I started answering like this only. I did not know the answer. I started, okay, so I think this, something like that. And the lady, she was so straightforward. This beating around the bush came from her. Like, Priya, please stop beating around the bush. Let's move on to the next question. I was like, shit, I better not have done this. So please be very mindful. See, be very honest of who you are. No one is asking you to portray being somebody else or portray something that you're not. If you're really good at some programming language, let them know. Let's say their project right now is on Java and you have never done Java in your life. Do not say that हाँ मैंने Java पे काम किया, मैं सीख लूंगा. Just let them know I have worked on let's say Python. I know my language. I know how to work on that. But since your project is on Java, I am so much confident within myself by the learnings that I have, by the experience that I hold, that I'll be able to ace learning this language as well and do my mastery in this. So this is how you go about it. Be very honest and humble to the recruiter. Just behave in a way. So whatever you're doing in an interview, I always do this trick on myself. I answer from the perspective as if I were the interviewer. Then how would I react to the answer I've just given as an interviewee? Right? So think from that perspective, and you will just ace it. You will actually be remembered by the interviewer even after the entire process is over, irrespective of what the result was.
Thank you so much, ma'am. One of the other questions that somebody asked was, how important is CGPA in cracking a good internship or a placement, whether it be on campus or off campus?
It's important. It's completely again dependent on the company that you're applying. But for a fresher in general, I have seen that it is important to maintain a good CGPA of above 8 or at least above 7. Below 7, it's a big no. You're not going to get hired very easily, except for the cases that you're a brilliant programmer. But if you're like a mediocre or a fresher or someone who has just started his learning journey, then I would highly recommend having a CGPA of 8 plus. If you have done 8 plus, then you're safe in all ranges. Now, no matter which company you're applying for, you're at least eligible. I mean, whatever the interview results is, it doesn't really matter. What matters is, were we able to get interviewed or not? So we should not do that injustice because of CGPA to ourselves. Try to maintain a good 8 and then you will be all clear. Later on, it completely depends on your luck. It depends on how well did your interview go based on the skills you had, right? So at least a 7, or if you want to be in the safe zones, then 8. 8 is good to have. And it's very easy to get also. If you are preparing the way I am suggesting, you are preparing for placements from the first year itself, I can bet on it that you will easily get a 9 plus GPA. 8 is so something you will very easily crack.
Thank you, ma'am. And so, for the last question for today, how can we explore the various career opportunities in tech? So, there are different kind of opportunities. Like there's software development, testing, and there are various other such opportunities. So, how
Yeah.
can one go about exploring all of these opportunities?
Again, I would say the best question of the evening. Why? Because everybody who has done BTech or MCA, BCA, they just know about being a software developer, SDE. But that is not it. We have got SREs, we have got QAs, we have got SQAs, we have got DAs, we have so many different roles. We have got product managers also there in place, right? So, how to know which role would be the best suiting for you? While in the college itself, I would highly recommend you to prepare for a developer role while trying to explore these online. What does a product manager do? What does a QA does? What technical skills are required for becoming a good QA? Quality analyst, or what needs to be done for becoming a MLAI engineer, or what can be done to become a good data analyst later on? What skills are required to become a good business analyst? Once you will start reading about all of these online, what will ultimately happen? You will form a good idea of projecting yourself as one of these roles. You will yourself align your skills with some of these roles. I mean, you will see whether you're a good DA in future or you're a good SD in future. If we primarily make a distinction between the two, is being very good with data or being very good with problem solving. This is the primary distinctive factor. So while you're still in college, this is for you to explore. Next way to explore is to get connected with people who are working in these roles on LinkedIn. Get connected to DAs, to business analysts, to SDs, to SREs, to every single role that you can find, and then just ask them, perhaps over a virtual coffee meet or something, that how does your day look like? What is your responsibility? What do you actually do? Because that actually differs a lot from what you have read online. What we do versus what we read online is two very different things, right? So try to have a word with them, get a hint of the job, and once you are sure shot in your head that this is the job for me, then start applying for that role and prepare in that trajectory only. Just build your resume that way, just build your skills that way, and make your LinkedIn profile also look that way. Right? So, this is how you go about it. Research about it online, talk to the people in the role, and then decide for yourself. Even if you're not doing it, you're already, in your first placement, you have got your good job. This is also the time for you to explore. That's okay. If you have not spent at least 5 to 7 years in that one line, it is still time for you to make a switch. Don't be worried about it, right? Go about it, explore, and the opportunities will themselves get filtered out very easily, because you know yourself the best. Never ask people, okay? Don't never ask people that what do you think based on my skills, will I be a good developer or will I be a good business analyst? Only you can decide for yourself. So be very open to yourself. Obviously, there's nothing to hide. You know everything, what you're good at, what you're not good at. So just try to filter it out on that basis.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Those were all the questions we had for you today. It was a pleasure to have you, and thank you once again for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you here with us again. Thank you so much.
All right, Kriti and Ananya, I had a great time too, and all the very best to all the viewers that have viewed this session. And I really wish these were my learnings over my 4 years of college and 2 years of experience. I really hope it could come handy to you, and you can perhaps, not do the mistakes that people do without knowing them, and perhaps get all the advantage of the learnings. All the very best to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.